Hello, everybody. Great to be here, and congrats to those of you who turned up early enough to put headphones on and hear me talking about how I couldn't tell the time. We didn't realize I was coming over the headphones quite as early on as I was, but a little bonus Chloe time for those of you who made it here in time for that. Thank you so much, so many of you turning up to the last slot of the day. I know the Elizabeth line is calling, so I really appreciate you sticking around, and I'm going to do my best to make this a really worthwhile session for all of you. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Chloë Thomas. I've been in the e-commerce industry for nearly 20 years now. Started off working brand side for a high street retailer in the UK, doing omnichannel way back in the early 2000s, and then I ran a marketing agency for 10 years, and now I'm slowly building a teeny tiny little media empire. I have two podcasts, the e-commerce master plan podcast over there on the far right of the screen. Been going since 2015, an interview with a different retailer every Monday. And then I've got a second podcast that's been bumped off the screen that's called Keep Optimizing, that's about marketing that I'll talk about as we go through. And then I've written 5 books about e-commerce. This is the most recent one. It's been a bestseller for a while, called E-commerce Marketing, How to Get Traffic That Buys to the Website. I don't know why I looked at the screen there. I do know what it's called. And then my most recent addition to my little family is E-commerce Tech, which is a website all about perfecting your tech stack that I took over this summer. So if I look a bit tired, it's not just the fact it's the end of day one, it's also the fact I accidentally bought a second business in the summer. I'll do hands up who else has done that, because I know at least one other person in the audience pretty much has, but we won't go there. So what I want to talk about to you today is 3 ways to make the rest of 2023 successful for you. I want to start off by talking about where we're at the moment, because we're in a really interesting time in e-commerce. I think there's 3 big things that we need to be dealing with over the next few months. One is the economy. Not going to talk about that too much, because you all full well know what's going on with all of that. But the economy is not our friend at the moment in terms of growing sales. We've also got the evolution of the e-commerce industry that is kind of ongoing. We are, I think, at a bit of a tipping point in the industry at the moment, because we've gone past that initial land grab stage. So we're now at the point where we're trying to do kind of ending up doing battle with each other. We've got really noisy marketing channels where we're trying to create cut through, trying to get our message in front of people. I can see heads nodding, you're familiar with this. We've got more competition than ever before. So it changes our strategy. Our industry is growing up. And then the third thing within all of this is that she says, managing to forget her third thing. This is why Chloe shouldn't do these at the end of day one. Privacy laws. How could I have forgotten the privacy laws? Someone actually asked me a question about this when I was stood here earlier on today. The impact of the privacy laws is kind of affecting us in so many ways. We've seen Facebook struggle to catch up with it. We've seen TikTok loving the fact that they control all their data, because quite frankly, everything has to happen on TikTok. Or it doesn't have to, but if you really want to make it work, you're using TikTok Shop and it's all happening on the platform. Google Ads, if you're not aware, they've changed massively in the last 18 months. If you're doing the same thing on Google Ads, you need to change what you're doing on Google Ads, because they've been playing catch up. So it's changed so much, and then it's also had that impact on our analytics as well. The reason Google Analytics no longer exists, and we now have the lovely GA4, let's not get into that, is because of the way they've had to change it for the privacy laws. Good news for us as individuals, hard for all of us as marketers. So there's an awful lot we're trying to contend with at the moment. So in putting this presentation together, I came up with an even bigger list than this one of things I could talk to you about. But success in any business, and especially in e-commerce at the moment, comes down to separating all those many things you could do and drilling down to the key things you should do. So that's what I've tried to do for you today, is to work out what 3 things you really should be focusing on for the rest of 2023 to get the right sales, or to get out of shot of those photos going on there. To do that, I've tried to think about, if we looked back in January, what would the winners have done in the next 3 months? I've tried to focus on things I can tell you enough about in 20 minutes that you can actually make an impact with it. And I've also tried to think about things that, I talked about our evolving industry and the changing privacy laws. The big line that comes out of that for me is that we need to become better marketers. So I've tried to also pick things that will help us along the journey to becoming better marketers. Okay, I think that's enough preamble. What's my first thing to help you be more successful in 2023? Think about profit ahead of volume. As part of that evolution of our industry, we're moving to a place where rather than thinking, how much stuff can we sell to how many people, we need to start thinking about how we can drive profit from our customers. We're seeing this happen in the TV industry as well. It's why you're increasingly going to see on your Netflix subscriptions and your Disney Plus subscriptions ads coming into play, Amazon Prime included, because all those companies have gone, ooh, industry's evolved, it's time to start making profit instead of doing the land grab. In e-commerce, we're in the same place. It's taken us a bit longer to get there, but we're in the same place. There's two ways in which, as an e-commerce business, or two things that are essential in an e-commerce business to put profit ahead of volume. One is to buy less stock. You all remember back in January, we all had to deal with the lovely situation that's overstock. I suspect many of you in the audience are going to be using Black Friday to clear what is hopefully the last of your 2023 overstock. I hope you succeed, I really do. So that's kind of like a long-term thing, is getting in control of your stock. Buying less, embracing the power of scarcity in your selling, selling through more at half price, taking lower discounts, and really making sure you're selling to the right customers who are going to love that product and who are willing to pay full price for it. That, I'm aware, is quite hard to achieve in the next 3 months. So the second part of this is about being better marketers and constructing better promotions. This is one of my golden rules. It's in the book. I've done a podcast episode about it. I wax on about it a lot. I could do a whole couple of hours on it. But essentially, every promotion you put together is about getting the customer to do what you want them to do as cheaply as possible. Now, that might be bundles, that might be a discount, that might be a buy one, get one free, it might be a free gift with purchase, it might be a donation to charity, it might just be great copywriting. This is what you should be considering every time you're putting a deal together. Who is the customer? What do we want them to do? And what's the cheapest way for us to get them to do that? That's what I would love you all to really be focusing on as we go into Q4 this year. Try and protect those profits through cleverer, better marketing. I'm not going to go through that in a huge amount of detail because we actually I did a webinar last week with these lovely people, Fiona from Loyalty Lion, Burke from PriceSync, and Claudio from VideoWise, all about how to make Black Friday more profitable. And the replay is still totally available for free. And there's a link, chloelink.com/expo. You'll see it on a few more slides, but that's a page on my website where I've given you a whole load of resources where you can dive deeper into the things I'm talking about today, and the link to get access to this webinar we haven't counted it, but I reckon there must be 100 different ways you could make more profit for Black Friday that we went through on that. It was ludicrous, the ideas we were coming up with. So that's available for you guys to watch later. Number 2, I'm going to rattle through this. Powerful, creative, and content. Now, by this, I don't just mean pretty pictures or let's all do video. I mean great copy, great messages, understanding your customers. I mean the pictures you're using. I mean the product pages on the website, the whole piece. Doing that better and stronger. You get it right, it's like oil greasing the way through the conversion path of your website. In the webinar I just mentioned, Claudio from VideoWise was sharing how they are slammed at the moment. So they're like a video hosting site specifically for e-commerce that enables you to optimize where you put your videos and various other bits and pieces. They're slammed helping new clients optimize their video content to increase conversion rates for Black Friday. That's what they're doing, and they've been doing all September. So it really does pay off improving your content and getting the right messages in the right places. The hardest thing to do with improving the creative in your business is not creating the creative, it's working out what to say in your creative. And that comes down to focusing on how you can go about building a connection with your customers. And the critical thing about building that connection with your customers is to find ways to do it. So we're talking storytelling, we're talking user-generated content, we're talking neuromarketing. I mentioned scarcity earlier. We're talking urgency, all those things you can pull together to create great pieces of content, great pieces of marketing that drive the reaction you want from the customers. Do this well, and your margin is better. We all know that an ad that looks great and that appeals to the customer gets a better click-through rate, a lower ROAS, and so on and so forth. But you can't do that unless you listen to your customers, unless you put the effort into understanding what your customers want, the words they use, the phrases they use, what's important to them. There are 1,000 different ways you can listen to your customers, right the way from face-to-face panel sessions through to reading the emails they send your customer services team. It doesn't have to be expensive. There's an amazing book by Ryan Levesque called Ask that will take you through how to do this really, really well. But for this Q3, dive into some content you've already got that's coming from your customers. Remember the words they're using, remember the phrases, remember what's important to them. Had a guest on the podcast a while ago, or last year, called Helen Rankin, who runs Cheeky Wipes, who do reusable baby wipe solution. And they used to sell it on the fact it was kind to your hand and good to the planet. She noticed her customers were asking about price, were asking about how much it was going to cost them. They changed their marketing messages to be about how much this would save you over the first 3 years of your baby's life versus buying disposable. And that kept their sales rates up, that kept their conversion rates up, because they listened to the customer and they changed their marketing materials to fit in with what they were hearing from the customer. It's not as hard as it sounds, but you do have to commit to doing it. Number 3 is testing, and this is kind of my get out of jail free card amongst all of this, because it was really hard getting this down to 3, okay? But testing is a very valid thing to be doing over the next 3 months. This is the time when consumers are most likely to buy. So it's a great time to be running tests. I said earlier that I started my career working for a UK retailer. I was running their catalogue mailings. So we'd send hundreds of thousands of catalogues out through the post to people. We ran so many A/B split tests with our Christmas catalogue because we wanted to take that opportunity to learn when the customers were hungriest to buy what messaging, what promotions, what covers would make them spend the most. That's what the approach you should be taking at Christmas time in peak, is what should we be testing, how can we do more tests to learn more at this key point in time that we can then roll out into future seasons, and maybe even in some cases roll out this season. I don't, however, want you to just go, Chloe said to do some testing, let's think of something to test. I want you to think of that testing as a way to build your marketing to where it needs to be as our industry evolves in all those ways I mentioned earlier. This is my traffic that buys model. There's links to more information about it in the chloelink.com/expo page. And what it is it's where I believe that you need to take your marketing plans to succeed as we go through the coming decade. You need a marketing plan that layers up these 5 key areas, the 3 traffic areas and the messaging areas, which, no surprise, we've spoken about quite a bit of this already today, and to do it throughout the whole of the customer journey. So think about where you've got gaps, where you know you can improve, and start testing that as we go through the coming season. And you'll be setting you should be improving your results this Q4, but you'll also be setting yourself up for success as we go into 2024 too, because you can then build on those results. And then, sorry, there was someone else taking a photo, and I just flicked on. I'll hold for a second or two and have some water whilst you do that. So I said this was my get out of jail free number 3, so I could add some more things in. So to preempt what I suspect would be a question from all of you, because we should have time for questions before we wrap this up, so get ready with questions. What would I be testing if I was in your shoes this autumn? First off, TikTok. I would most definitely be finding a way to test TikTok, whether that was going organically and using, creating content myself as a brand, whether that was using the TikTok creator audience to get them to create content about my products, or whether that was using TikTok ads. And I would definitely be, if I was doing any of those 3 things, I would be getting my business set up on TikTok Shop, which is where they check out on TikTok, you fulfill the order. TikTok are heavily incentivizing you to do this at the moment. ad rates are low, commission rates on those sales are very low. They really want people on their platform, so why not take advantage of it? Could be a great thing to be testing this Christmas. Secondly, I would be looking for some blue ocean ad platforms, basically. We know the competition's up. We know the results from Facebook ads aren't what they used to be. Google is equally forever going up with the CPMs. But there are, like when I had a marketing agency, it was predominantly a performance marketing agency. And God, I would be so excited right now if I still had it. Because there's so many platforms that you guys should be using. Or should be testing, actually, let me qualify that. We've got Pinterest ads. We've got ads on Spotify. All of these I've heard e-commerce brands having great results with. Podcast advertising. I know one brand in the US, Sheets brand, bedding brand, who cancelled all their Facebook ads and instead spent the money sponsoring sports podcasts. And it's worked for them. They're still doing it 18 months later. So there's loads of different things you can do, loads of blue oceans that don't have the levels of competition that can bring you the results. So I'd be testing at least one of those. Oh, Reddit, Quora, those are both platforms you might want to try. So I'd try some alternative ads. And then the final thing which I'd test as you go into Q4 would be to look at your creative. This is a great time to try something totally different. You know, just take 5% of your ad spend and try a totally different approach to your ad creative, to your email creative maybe, and try something a little bit different and see how your customers react, see if maybe you can tap into a different target market. That is definitely something I'd be looking at doing this Q4. So, my 3 keys to success in e-commerce right now: profit over volume, powerful creative and content, and do some testing. The link at the top is there, chloelink.com/expo, where you can get loads more resources. There's loads of podcasts. All of it's free. You don't have to give me your email address unless you want the webinar replay. So feel free to go and dive into that. We're going to go to questions in a second, but for now, thank you all very much. And I think we've got time for a few questions. So do we have hands up from anybody? Anybody want to ask a question? Are you going to let me off this easily? I know it's the end of the day. No questions at all? Wow. Early finish for everybody then, guys. Thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of the day. Cheers.